add some of our Disney friends to a fun zipper pouch project. Hi friends, May Flaum here, and you've got two options. You could use fabric and a zipper and create your own zipper bag here if you would like, and for full customization. Or you could just use a pre-purchased zipper bag available in many different kinds of stores, from craft stores to online, and of course your dress it up buttons and some felt or fabric, and create something custom in a lot less time and a lot easier. So even if you are not much of a sewer, this is a project that everyone can do for every skill level. So as I said before, you'll need your dress it up buttons, you'll need your felt, or fabric, a pair of scissors to cut a shape out. If you have an electronic die cutting machine, you could certainly do that. I'm just hand cutting a heart here to go on. And you'll also want a needle and thread to do some sewing, and some adhesive if you want to glue on versus sew on your buttons. That is definitely your option. Once you have your shape cut out, whether it be by hand or machine, you're going to want to get some embroidery thread. I am using 2 strands here of embroidery thread, and I'm just going to do a simple running stitch. You could do any stitch at all here. You could also do multiple stitches. You could do different stitches and really fill this entire cover. You could also skip the fabric or felt and just go with lots and lots of different stitches and a really interesting look. That is, as we say, your call. You can also use an iron-on fixative or adhesive of some sort to your felt or fabric to hold it into place. I just found that wasn't strictly necessary for this project, and those items can be rather pricey. So when I can skip that, I definitely do. Now I'm going to just stitch all the way around, and you can see me starting here. Let's cut to the end. Here we go, finishing it off. And once you have it finished off, you're just going to tie a knot, same as you started, and move along. And again, this is a very customizable project, as all my tutorials here at Dress It Up Buttons are. This is one where you could really change it up if you wanted to do a lot of stitching or a lot of technique or very little. If you wanted to use a heat transfer vinyl or something that you had cut with an electronic cutting machine, that would be a great use here. Lots of unlimited options, no doubt. And as I said before, once you finish, you just tie off a little knot here and just make sure it's nice and secure, and you're done. Now, as far as the stitch work being on the inside of this little zipper bag, I'm keeping this very simple, so I am not worrying about it. You could use a piece of fabric with some iron-on fixative there, or some kind of thing to keep it glued down there. You could, or even fabric glue, and glue it over if you were concerned. Now, it is the really fun part. We get out all of our Dress It Up buttons, all 3 of our Frozen character buttons, and go to town. I am going to be removing the shanks, which you can see I'm doing here with a pair of scissors. You can remove the shanks here and just make sure they're nice and flat, and then go ahead and glue everybody off. If you find that there's a little bit of piece left, you can always just come back in and trim if need be. You can also use sandpaper or sanding block to sand that down. And once you have these, then you're going to, any other shapes that you want. Hearts would be lovely. I've got a bunch of snowflakes. I have some winter snowflakes, and I mean, it's frozen, so you know I love that. And in this case, I actually just have some from this multi-pack that also has cute little cocos, and then I have some teeny tiny snowflakes, and I'm going to remove the shanks from all of these buttons as well. And then once we have all of the shanks removed, which same process, pair of scissors or cutter of some kind. Once these are all done, then what we are going to do is organize them. We are going to arrange them. And I'm just setting them where I would like to see them. And the reason I'm doing this is just to see if I have cut enough shanks off of enough snowflakes, or if I need a few more. If I am satisfied, then I'm going to get out my glue and go ahead and start adhering them down. This process is very quick and very easy. You're going to want to be generous with the glue on the bigger buttons and even the smaller ones too. You're just going to want to use an adhesive that will glue buttons and that type of thing to fabric, felt, etc. And generally speaking, these are clear drying adhesives, so if a little bit shows, don't worry about it. It's going to dry clear. This adhesive actually is clear going on and stays that way. It is called Liquid Fusion. I'm not sure who makes it, but it's called Liquid Fusion, and it's held together really well for me with button and fabric projects. And then once you've got everybody down, it's decision time. What else might you like to add? I have got some dress it up little mini buttons here, and I am going to do these a little differently. I am going to stitch these on, and these are just going to give added support to my felt and my project in general, but it's not going to add a lot of stitching on the back side because I am just going to stitch through and tie knots on the front. Now here's a little tip. After you do these, if you're doing little knots, sometimes it can be helpful to put just a drop of liquid adhesive onto the knot after you're all done. And the reason for that is that can just kind of help make sure that the knot doesn't come undone, make sure that everybody stays right where they're supposed to be. And as you can see, I'm just putting my needle up through and then I'm pulling it through, but also holding on to the other side so that I make sure that I don't pull too hard or pull the thread all the way through before we go ahead and, you guessed it, tie a knot. This is really fun. It adds a little pop of color and texture, just a little different shape here. These little mini buttons are so useful for so many different kinds of projects, and this definitely being one of them. I do love it when I can actually sew through the button and have that little thread showing there. I just think it's so cute. Once you have all of your buttons in place, you could be done, or here's what I'm doing. I'm pulling a length of embroidery thread through the hole in my zipper pull, and I'm going to layer on buttons, and I'm just going to put this through one of the two holes of each of the buttons, and I'm just kind of making a pattern here of a bunch of different colors of those little mini buttons, and then I'm also going to add on a couple of snowflakes. Now what I am doing here essentially is just designing a little zipper pull decoration. You could do this with beading wire, you could do this with wire, you could do this a lot of different ways. I just really like, for a project like this, use a little thread. It's going to be double strengthened, and again we'll put a little dot of glue on the knot when I'm all done. Right now what I'm just doing is just get the pattern down, okay? Which buttons would I like to use in what color pattern, get them all organized here on my needle, let them slide down the thread. And you'll just want to make sure you have plenty of thread for this, just because it's easier to work with a length of thread than it is to try and make this go fast. And then my end button, so my end snowflake, I'm just pulling it through the once, and that's going to serve as the end. So that shank will serve as the bottom. And then I'm just going to thread this back through. All of those buttons have a second hole, and we did not pull through that second hole on the first time down. So going back, you're just going to pick up every single second hole. So the hole that did not get the thread through it initially, pull it back through. And that's just going to really secure everything, keep it all nice and straight and even. But it's also just going to be, it's going to be so cute because these are going to be all lined up like little candies and all pulled through. We're just going to pull through a bit so I have a bit more to work with. You're probably able to see here why I said I want to have a little more room, because it's just a little easier to work with. And you can see how cute that lines up. We've got our snowflakes and our little colored buttons all lined up, and just topping this off in a super cute way. And this is all ready to be filled up, gifted, and oh my goodness, this is a fun project. And to be very honest, yes, it can be kind of time consuming, maybe an hour or two, depending on how much stitching you do or versus gluing. But look at how cute that all turns out with all those details, all those dress-it-up buttons in all those different forms, and putting my basics together with my shank buttons, my favorite Frozen characters, to create something truly special and giftable. I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. Please be sure to subscribe to Dress It Up Buttons for even more ideas and inspiration to come.